We're back to mix it up on the big political hot potato in Washington this week. What's the way forward in Afghanistan, and how did the president handle the McChrystal situation? Broad agreement from both sides of the aisle that General David Petraeus is the right man to replace General Stanley McChrystal as commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Petraeus going to testify on the Hill next week. It'll be in front of a Senate panel to get his nomination confirmed. It's a process seen in this case as little more than a formality. He will take the reins at an increasingly dire time, and what we all know is now America's longest war, and in fact June, and it's not yet over, officially the deadliest month for coalition troops since the war began. The death toll in the past 24 days now at 80 American soldiers. The arrival of General Petraeus on the scene begs the question, can a change at the top be successful if there is no change in policy? In other words, is the policy the problem, not the man administrating the policy? Here to mix it up, two of my favorites, editorial page editor for the Washington Examiner, Mark Tapscott, and editorial writer for the Washington Post, Jonathan Capehart. Mr. Capehart, I'll begin with you with the politics. You have to give Obama high marks for the politics of this. You had this huge blow up, all this, 24 hours go by, Petraeus is in, everybody's happy. Now we can yell at him about financial regulation.
Well, everybody's happy, but it seems like he still has to get his team on board together. The interesting thing about this McChrystal matter is that it brought to the surface, exploded to the surface, simmering tensions that have been going on behind the scenes, you know, on President Obama's foreign policy team over exactly what to do. You had people who were for this counterinsurgency strategy, and you had people who were against it. And I think yesterday in the Rose Garden, the president made it clear, you know, tired of the public divisions, get on board because this is what I've decided to do. Mark Tapscott, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. Is there fundamentally, and it doesn't matter who's there, again, wrong policy, right man, wrong man, you can change people all day. If I'm the wrong system, I'm not going to get the right outcome. Has the president struck a bad deal with, again, the pullout on one end, the surge on the other end? They think it's a political compromise. The reality is it's a convertible without any tires. It sounds like fun, but you can't go anywhere.
That's a very apt analogy because with the convertible, you get rained on.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's political rain still to come for Obama on this. I have to say, I'm very impressed with the way, from a political perspective, he's handled this situation. Yeah. It's an interesting contrast. He's totally mishandled an environmental calamity, but he's done a pretty good job with a military problem, and you probably would not think first that he would be a military guy.
What are you laughing about, Jonathan? Just say
I'm laughing because just, you know, listening to Mark, what? Are you complaining he hasn't pulled out his Aquaman suit and gone down there and capped the well himself?
Hold on. You careful now, Capehart. Go ahead, Mark. Go. No, I'm going to hear you. I'm coming for you, Capehart, but I want to hear Mark first.
Well, Jonathan, that was what you call a setup.
What did you say, Mark?
It was a setup, and I totally did.
It was a setup. Here's my thing. I'll say you real quick, Jonathan, with the well. The failure to appropriately report, understand, and deliver the flow rate information and the pressurization in that well in those first few weeks goes directly to the containment strategy. If 5 million gallons are coming out instead of 1,000 gallons are coming out, how I respond is totally different. If you look at the oil wellhead, yes, I wouldn't expect the president to fly down there, although apparently SpongeBob has offered to go down there and offer some help. So I don't blame the president for the blowout. I blame that on BP and the regulatory structure, but I do blame the president for the failure to respond on a containment level and for a failure to deliver on the flow rate appropriately and pressurization. For what it's worth.
This goes back way before the blowout. BP has been in bed with the federal government for 13 years. Pushing cap and trade and other policies that corporate executives, the big corporation guys, thought would benefit them and put their competitors at a disadvantage.
And it's easier to rig the government than it is to actually make a better product these days, so why wouldn't you? Gentlemen, a pleasure. I think we can change that and make people actually try to compete for a living again as opposed to compete to manipulate the federal government.